How's it going, everyone? We're back for another episode of Boxcars. Woo! Here with Pat.
Hello.
And Zach. And we're going to talk about a game that we've both been playing quite a bit, Shadow of War.
Orc Dad Simulator 2017.
And it's, it's a game, all right. I'll give it that. It's one of those things where I love open world games a lot, just because it always feels at the very beginning that it's very expansive. And Shadow of War does the same thing. But then you hit that halfway point and it just really, you realize everything is kind of a rinse and repeat.
It is a lot of, check boxes you gotta cross off.
Mm-hmm.
The missions don't feel very, the story-based ones don't feel very,
Well, they don't really feel connected a lot of times. Yeah.
Well, in the beginning, you kind of have this, this starting city, and you kind of meet all these people, and from there you kind of spread out, and then you kind of meet all these people randomly later on with no real
rhyme or reason.
Yeah. You just kind of bump into them, and they have a mission for you out there, and
or there's legendary creatures and figures that you meet, and they're just oh, you have to help me, and it's who the hell are you? Why didn't you contact me? Why? It's one of those things.
Very early in the game, you bump into Shelob, the spider from the third Lord of the Ring movie, that
who can transform into a sexy lady at will.
Did you know that?
I had no idea.
I remember that part where she tries to seduce Frodo by turning into a sexy lady.
I just remember her as a giant spider, and I had no idea she had any importance beyond being a giant spider.
Well,
I knew she was a named giant spider, so I assumed that she was a boss character.
The game, they do say that the game is very not canon. It's not canon at all.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I get it. It's a game. It's almost third party as far as the lore goes.
Yeah.
But I really like what they did with the story.
Oh, yeah.
The Balroth that everyone sees in the trailer, which I think is more or less there so that they could have put it in the trailer.
Right.
You're the reason why it shows up. That's the same Balroth that Gandalf ends up fighting.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought that was a really cool
That's cool.
tie-in.
I will say there are times that I'm trying to figure out why characters are back, or why characters are there. Gollum has no reason to. He's only in a couple of missions at the very beginning.
He was much more prominent in the first game,
but even then, I didn't like him.
Yeah,
it never felt like he really added anything.
The Celebrimbor, the elf ghost that you're with, is the guy who made the ring.
Yeah.
So I get why he's obsessed with him. There's a reason, but it's not a very good reason for him to be trekking around Mordor all this time,
risking his life just to hang out with a ghost that doesn't like him.
Yeah. And then he shows up in the second game, and I'm almost why?
Yeah.
He felt out of place and almost inappropriate in the first game.
Right.
Why bring him up? Why bring him back in the second game?
If anything, I'd like an orc with more personality who could have filled that role.
Yes.
And that's I know this game has a couple of those.
Spoiler: Ratbag made a comeback.
Yeah. Okay.
How'd you feel about that?
Fucking why? He was dead. Okay. I think I just had a moment where I had this realization that I was the characters from the first Shadow of Mordor weren't good enough. There weren't enough of them that you gave a shit about, or that had actual story beyond the regular orcs, so that they needed to bring one back.
I will say this, I did like the story of Ratbag from the first game. I did not feel compelled to bring him into this game. The same thing with Gollum.
Yeah.
I didn't feel the same to bring him back, although I did enjoy seeing that when they revealed him, he is still doing his same cowardly thing.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to sleaze his way up the ranks.
Well, I really liked how they were
I kind of really enjoyed that.
I love that they were oh yeah, you gotta watch out, the guy who runs this fortress is a two-headed Olog, and he's I wonder if that makes him smarter, and it's really Ratbag and a helmet on the shoulder of an actual regular Olog
that he named after you,
that he names Ranger after you because he's killed so many orcs so easily, and I thought that was adorable. I will say one of the fun characters that they introduced for this game, the new characters, was Bruce, and I really liked Bruce. I'm not a fan that he's there for a couple of missions. and then he betrays you, and then you have to deal with the consequences of that betrayal.
Well, it wasn't subtle either. It was like from very early on, he's like, I want more power, and your characters are talking back and forth like, oh no, what have we done? We've created a monster. And then he betrays you. It's like, shocker.
But like, what's funny is I never got the, oh no, he's going to hunger for more power and turn against us. I got like, people were like, wow, Bruce is limitless in his potential. And I was like, I mostly help with his fight, and he hasn't done any missions for me, so what, okay. Other than being the best, like, funniest orc.
I think they specifically don't let you use him for anything because he's mission relative.
Right.
I just remember having him sit there for a while as a level 18 orc being like, man, I wish I could do more with Bruce.
Yeah. And then
he was really fun. I did find it like almost quirky how you would like do a mission or like recruit,
and he would pop up and talk.
He would literally like pop out of like a barrel.
Yeah.
This giant Olag would just like pop out from underneath it.
Oh, hey, here's how you dominate. Yeah.
Like that guy you just recruited is a sneaky guy. You should use him to backstab another orc.
No, that was good. I liked him as the tutorial orc. I will say I was a little disappointed that part of the cutscene is like when you first meet Ratbag, you get to choose. They're like, you have to choose between either us owning the fort or Bruce owning the fort, and then neither of them are an option, and you have to pick a different guy.
Ratbag says you can have anybody be the overlord, just anybody but Bruce. And like his Olag Ranger agrees, like no, never Bruce.
Okay,
anybody
but that's 2v1. Like, and Bruce has helped me out way more than.
And then Bruce is not an option.
Yeah,
I was like,
I was bummed. I wanted to side with Bruce on that. He was funny, and I wanted him to have more dialogue in a good way.
Well, then he wouldn't betray you for you not giving him overlord.
Yeah, but okay, he can still betray me later. But still, I'd like to see more Bruce missions. I don't know, but without the whole, And then at the end, he's like, I overturned your domination, now I'm an asshole. And then Celebrimbor is like, hey, so just break his mind, please. And that will solve all the problems. And then after you break his mind, you can control him. But it's like...
I didn't. I left him...
Like, why bother?
Yeah. I left him as a free mind-broken orc.
Yeah.
To like... and he did that thing where he shows up on other maps to like ambush me.
But you just kind of leave him?
I just kind of left. I just kind of like... It's
just kind of sad?
Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to end Bruce.
I get you.
I loved him too much.
And I just was like, I don't know, I was disappointed that they give you a fun character and then immediately have him like mustache twirlingly betray you.
But the story characters were never really a point in plot of these Mordor games.
They've never been great.
Captains.
I know, but like that's disappointing. Especially that like here's a game that like really, and I get that the game really like rides on its orcs that are like randomly generated orcs that like develop relations with you through the Nemesis system. But you'd think that for a game that like makes such great, weird like NPC characters that you care about, that they can't make story characters that you care about.
Yeah.
Like it's I don't know. Like I liked some of the Gondorians, but they were all dumb.
There were named Gondorians that had huge written up backstories that don't have a single line of dialogue. Or that's it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like,
I remember
this eye patch dude. He has a whole backstory written up in like the if you go into like the
and he's in like every Gondorian cutscene.
Yeah.
He's in every single cutscene and he barely has lines. At one point he like smirks and nods at you and then you get fireballed.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. And he gets lit on fire.
But he drags himself away, so I'm like, did he survive? Did he get away? I want to know more about this guy.
Okay. I was really interested when in the very first couple of levels, the first level where you can only kill orcs, which again, it's weird that they just are like...
It did feel like a very long time before you could recruit the orcs.
I met so many cool orcs that I wanted to make my friends, and I had to kill them.
I did that thing where I couldn't recruit an orc, and I was very sad that I had to kill him.
Yeah.
Very early on, I met one of the singer orcs.
Oh, yeah!
That was great. And an orc that only talked in rhyme.
Fantastic.
I was so sad I had to kill him.
Yeah, and that's such a bummer, especially for a game that's like, and I get that it's like, oh, she took the ring away from us, but you never needed that before.
True. How did you feel about the Nemesis? Nemesis.
One thing that I've always thought is, number one, it's okay. There's one instance I can think of that I talked about on one of the other podcasts. Moog the Untouchable was an orc that I was trying to fight, and I was like a level below him, and the 3 times I tried to kill him or like shame him or do something to get him on my team, he always managed to kill me, or some other orc popped in and killed me or something. And he had at that point adapted to most of my attacks. So I was like, shit, I don't know how to kill this guy. I'm going to take a breather, head to a low level area and level up some of those orcs and hopefully level up myself and maybe come back for Moog. And then while I was like pit fighting orcs and one of my orcs loses, I'm there trying to recruit another orc, and Moog shows up from an entirely other map and ambushes me, and I thought that was fucking fantastic.
From like the other side of Mordor. He traveled.
He literally says, like, I've been tracking you across Mordor to murder you, and I'm sitting there next to these level 18s that I've been trying to like recruit in the Nurnen area, and
the lowest level area.
Yeah, and here's fucking Moog, a level 31. Like, comment, like, I was just like, Moog, they're just children, man. Don't fucking... And it became this thing where, like, I knew I couldn't beat him just by myself. So I started recruiting the orcs, and because I hadn't been in Nurnen for a while, there were other, feral tracker orcs that, like, came after me and ambushed me, that were enemy orcs, that I hadn't even seen or met. But it became this game of, like, me knocking their health low, recruiting them, and then throwing them to Moog, and then having them knock Moog's health low and, like, die in droves to the meat grinder that was this orc, until eventually he was low enough that I just killed him. But it was, like, a touching moment. Like, it was one of those things where he, like, got on his knees after I'd, like, knocked him down, and he was like, a honorable death in the name of Sauron. Thank you, Ranger. And then I chopped his fucking head off. And I was like, that's cool. On the other hand, I would have really liked to have, like, been able to control Moog and have him be, like, my buddy after I get through all of that. You know, after so much, like, you go through so much with these orcs, and then it's just like, well, my only option is to kill him.
Well, see, one of the issues I had with the Nemesis system was there were all these cool and interesting characters, and I was like, oh man, I would love to have this guy, like, in my army showing up at these quests, and doing all these cool things. But that always turned into, I recruited them, I gave them a job, like I made them a war chief or a bodyguard to a war chief, or sent them, unless I sent them off to, like, go kill another captain. Yeah. I never saw them again.
Yeah, they would just sit.
They would sit in the fort, and they would essentially cease to exist. And
which is a bummer.
That was a bummer.
There was definitely, like, a lower number of missions that orcs were going on simultaneously than in the first one.
Well, I definitely made more of an effort to, like, when I realized that in Nurnen, the lowest level area, I bumped into I recruited one of the war chiefs that were there, and when I did, I thought he was a really cool guy. Yeah. I only was able to recruit him because I was ambushed by another orc that just happened to be his rival, and he was terrified of his rival.
Oh, God.
And that was the only, like, I was losing to this guy. I got ambushed. I'm like, oh, no, he's going to kill me. Right. I'm going to have to, like, he's going to level up. I'm going to have to go find him somewhere else. Then I get ambushed, and he just starts running away in terror. It was his rival. I was like, oh, that's awesome. I recruited him, and then I essentially never saw him again. And when I finally went back, because as the pre-mentioned Bruce betrays you, to that area, I was very happy to have to, like, rescue him from Bruce. Okay. And then bring him on all these missions to go take back the fort. I had a lot of fun with that.
That's good. And that's, like, it's one of those things where there were times when I wouldn't, like, read through certain guys' descriptions. I think there was one time in I didn't read through a certain orc's description.
I lost so many orcs that way.
And I forgot that this one guy had a blood brother, and then I was going after like a war chief's lieutenant or something, and then he like shows up as like, "You're going after my blood brother, and I hate that." And I'm like, "Oh man, I didn't know."
I didn't even know blood brother was a thing until I lost what I still think was the coolest combat-wise orc that I had.
Mm-hmm.
He was an Olag. He was Asgore the Destroyer. He had...
Oh, Asgore the Destroyer.
He had a grenade launcher, a flamethrower. He dropped mines and bombs. It was a constant ream of explosions, and I bent over backwards to try and recruit that guy.
I think Asgore is actually the guy who they made YouTube memorials for, because he was one of the first guys to die in the first Shadow of War like demo. He like busted through like a wall or something,
and then he got lit on fire.
And then got lit on fire and died. And then they made like memorial vision, like Asgore the Destroyer seemed like a cool guy, like stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't think it was the same guy. Then all the names kind of like
put
together.
Well, that's okay. I've definitely gotten to the point where some of them are definitely being recycled. Yeah. There's definitely like recycled names and recycled like traits.
I've definitely had a lot of Pogs.
Yep.
P-U-G.
Moogs, Pogs.
But that's fine. That's like saying there's a lot of like Steves out there, or Jim,
and that's understandable. Like, it's just funny because like I literally had a copy of a guy show up, and definitely not the original guy. Like, because I remember the very first level I met a guy like that was named like Grish the Kingslayer, and I killed him. And then he came back with like the metal stapled together face.
Oh, I had a legendary guy that I accidentally killed, and he came back with a metal, like stapled together face.
No,
I recruited him. Now he had this really nice fancy golden helmet. Mm-hmm. He was like called Grosh the Legendary, and then I accidentally killed him. I'm like, oh darn! And then he ambushed me later, and he's like, you tried cutting off my head, but they built it back together. And then I was like, oh man, you're back! And I recruited him, and now he's leading my Nuren fortress.
Well, there you go. I will say, one thing that I like the most is definitely like, I like when most of the orcs that I like the most aren't orcs that like I'll find and they'll be like, your traits were cool, or like you had a fun quote. Because 9 times out of 10 I'll show up and I've gotten to the point where I'll show up now, I'll knock a guy down to like recruitable before he even gets a chance to like talk to me.
Yeah.
Like before we even clash swords and he goes, Ranger!
You'll like ambush them, then you'll get like 7 hits on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freeze them, hit them 30 times, and then, recruit them. But all the ones that I really like, all the orcs that I like the most, are ones that really surprised me when it came to like some kind of a combat. Like, I'll show up and be like, Grash the Drunk. And I'm like, Grash the Drunk is nothing. Grash the Drunk's a pushover. I'm not like concerned about Grash. His trait is just being wasted. This is not a like interesting orc. And then he would Tokyo drift dodge around me, pull out 2 crossbows, fill me full of crossbow bolts, and then hit me with a fire sword. And I was like, all right, cool. That was actually awesome. I kind of want that guy. And
there is a mechanic to level up your orcs. Mm-hmm. And every, I think, 5 or 10 levels, they get a new trait or like lose a bad trait. Mm-hmm. And I had I think there's a low-level legendary guy in the second area. He was like level 20-ish, whatever. Yeah. And I ended up preying on he was legendary. I couldn't pass that up. Yeah. And he was one of those guys with like the helmets that were on fire. Oh yeah, yeah. He was like something fire belly, and I ambushed him with like 5 orcs. Mm-hmm. He ran away in terror pretty quickly. He got changed to whatever the gutless. Yep. And I was like, oh, that's a bummer. I recruited him, and as I put him in like the pit fights to level up, mm-hmm. he just got the coolest set of abilities. First, he got like gave himself a fire weapon. I'm like, okay, he's already got the fire helmet. I could have guessed his name used to be Firebelly. Right. I could have told you he was going to light his weapon on fire eventually. Yeah. Then he gave himself the decoy ability, which makes it so that there's like 5 copies of him. And he was also that Slayer class that attacks like very fast with like 2 axes all the time. Yep. So when I put him in the pit fight after he won once, he just showed up with 5 duplicates, all
Of
with
himself.
fire axe.
Oh man.
And they all had fire weapons, and they were just spinning, lighting everything on
That's
fire.
cool as hell. I'm down with that.
He turned into one of my favorite orcs as he leveled up.
Now, okay, the decoy ability was it was a surprise for me, just because I remember getting, I think it was, I got the first orc I found with the decoy ability, I came in a box, and I was like, I think he was just called like, let's call him Greg the Horned One.
Yeah.
And he was just like a shirtless orc wearing a helmet who had like a bone for a weapon. And I'm like, okay, this guy is not a heavy hitter. This is just some dude. Cool. And so I put him in a pit fight, and I was like, I went off to do laundry, didn't even like watch the full fight, came back to watch him and 5 other versions of him smacking an Olog to death with like bones and like winning. And I was like, what the fuck happened to Greg the Horned One? Damn. And I was really just impressed the entire time. And now I like bring him on missions and shit, and it's always kind of crazy whenever it's like, although I will say, I've noticed that when his copies die, they do that close-up on him.
That gets old real fast.
That's a bummer. And I'm like, okay, if I made him a little tougher, maybe.
Well, the copies, besides having like a special weapon effect or whatever, are just normal orcs.
Okay.
Like, they have the health of your standard grunt.
Gotcha.
So sometimes you'll put like a guy with decoy in the pit fight, and like the first thing that'll I had a hunter guy with decoy, the guys that throw the spears.
Right.
And he went up against a guy that had a gang of hunters. So it was like 5 copies of my guy throwing spears at a bunch of hunter orcs.
Yeah.
And while the 2 actual captains fought in the middle. And every time the normal hunters won. The hunters beat all the decoys, and of course I had to watch that slow-mo death animation.
Right.
What are some of your like major complaints since we've been praising it?
Let's see. Well, we've already said characters are dumb. I will say,
what about like gameplay-wise?
Pit fights feel like they should either have a skip function or like an auto resolve.
Well, you can just sit there and advance time 3 times, but that can also be time consuming.
Let's see.
I think I'd rather watch guys fight. But yes, the pit fights, I absolutely agree, were mind-numbing, and
it's a good way to level up guys, but I don't want to have to watch, like, I'm just going to keep running them through stuff.
Well, here's the trick I ultimately settled on with pit fights. When you unlock pit fights for a region, when you capture a region, you unlock pit fights so you can level up your orcs or find better orcs. When you beat the first pit fight, there's 3 levels of pit fights. Maggots.
Maggot Warrior Champion.
Yeah, and they'll unlock it, and they'll each be like 10 levels apart.
Right.
It doesn't matter which one they fight. They'll get approximately 3 levels. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 4, but usually it's 3. And it doesn't matter. So if you have like a level 60 is the max.
Yep.
Let's say you had a level 30 dude. You could have him fight the other level 30 dude and have this big, long, drawn-out fight.
Or you have him fight 5 maggots.
Yeah, or you have him fight a bunch of low-level dudes.
And level up.
And he'll eventually just start trucking through them.
Yeah.
That's what I ended up doing.
Because I've been also grinding through maggots first, and then once I've got, like, I'll go to a region, I'll take my lowest level dude, I'll grind him through maggots till I'm at, like, a nice solid 30 or something. Then I'll start running him through warriors until I'm tired of that, and then I'll run him through a champ.
The only time, the only real incentive I see to doing, like, the higher level ones, besides the actual mission rewards, the one-time mission rewards, is that you can sometimes get good epic or legendary orcs that show up in the pit fights.
Right.
And I like to throw a little chump to go sacrifice himself.
Oh, yeah.
To the legendary pit fight champion.
So you can grab him.
And then I recruit the champion.
Of course.
But you can also have your orcs fight each other in the pit fight. Now, you might say, why? I'm losing 2 captains. Well, because they gain approximately 7 levels.
Okay.
And
I was going to say, because I was like...
I don't know how much free time you have, but, man, at approximately like 5 minutes per pit fight, there's a 3-minute timer, but it stops every single time they do like a little fancy attack move.
Here's the thing. If there was one thing I wished for Shadow of War, I wish that the companion app that they made for Shadow of War wasn't a weird app game. I kind of wish it was like Mass Effect Andromeda, but with pit fights. I wish that I could like run my guys through pit fights or run them through missions with each other.
That'd be very nice.
Like that would at least be useful. I don't know. And again, pit fights take up a lot of time. There's a lot of missions where I'll, there are some times where I'll show up to areas, and again, I will leave an area with like all my guys like controlling everything. There's no gaps for enemies to like pop into.
Okay.
And I'll come back after a while.
I learned something the hard way.
Yeah.
Before you complete the game, and not just like the story, like the endless war at the very end, like everything. You need at least 2 spaces for new orcs to show up in, or one of your guys will randomly die.
Really?
Yep. And it's indiscriminate. It picks completely at random. I have lost legendary guys to that nonsense before. There are daily missions, and that's how you can get the gold. Oh, I'll get the microtransactions in a second.
Yeah.
And I bought one of the microtransaction boxes that give you like 4 legendary orcs.
Oh yeah.
1 up an orc to like an orc of your choosing up to legendary status. And I dropped all 4 of them in one area because I was like, oh, nerd. Because I was like, I want this place to have a whole bunch of legendary orcs.
Yeah.
But when you drop them, you have to have open spots.
Yep.
And I filled up every last spot, and then I did one thing, looked back, and one of the new legendary orcs was dead on the ground. And I was like, what? Did I send him on a mission?
Yeah.
Did he go to a mission I didn't realize?
Yep.
Where did he die? How did he die? They just get assassinated by other orcs, and there's nothing you can do about it except leave 2 spaces open.
There you go. Now, one thing I was thinking about too was one thing I liked was in Shadow of Mordor when my guys ranked up, they like added to their character model. They either got bulkier weapons and bulkier but it feels like it doesn't happen as much.
Definitely.
And
Absolutely.
I've definitely noticed that, and it feels like it doesn't really matter if you're in that bottom tier of like orc ranks. It only matters if you up to War Chief. Or Overlord.
I'll be honest, I kind of missed that too. While it was an unnecessary step for them to like rank up and recruit, it was arbitrary.
Yeah.
Because they were all captains or war chiefs or overlords.
Yeah.
They just got out the ranks of captain, and I guess I'm okay with that because that let me organize my orcs in particular ways to like easily view them for the fortress assaults.
Right, and that works. It's just I kind of wish that like
that had relevance.
If I took a grunt and I brought him from like the bottom ranks up to War Chief, I kind of wish that like he would just armor the hell up and like have cool weapons and stuff like that. Because I remember that was a cool rush whenever you like killed a higher rank in the hierarchy. Your guy would like get more armor, get more gear, get a new weapon, and it was organic what he got. Like it felt like the orc was choosing his play style.
Yes.
And now it feels a lot more like
sometimes it was relative to how he ranked up.
Yeah.
I remember the trials by combat. Those missions are identical to what they used to be in Shadow of Mordor.
I think they're easier now, if anything, because I remember
I'd agree with that.
Because there's like a lot of times where it's like, oh, a Caragor. I'm like, Caragor I'm not worried about because like it'll come out, you'll have a fun cutscene animation, and you'll murder this one Caragor in like one cutscene.
Yeah.
Done. Like, why even have that mission at that point?
I'll be perfectly honest. I have had that thought, and I said, I'll let that one auto-resolve, then the guy dies. I'm like...
Yeah, every time you think that it's going to be, like, a sure thing, they die.
Also, Caragor's, beasts and basic orcs don't level up.
Nope.
No matter what level you are in the game,
yep.
If you're a level 5 player starting or a level 60 max level player, those guys more or less have the same stats.
Yep.
Your orcs can also level up. I am infuriated at the concept that my level 55 orc died to a level 5 Caragor.
Right.
It's obviously some sort of just a coin flip or whatever.
Well, it's I mean, okay, I will say there's a there were a lot of times when a guy who's afraid of Caragors decides to go and do the trial by combat with Caragors, and I'm like, you're going to run away. I'm going to have to do this for you, and you're not going to learn any lessons from it.
I'm going to have to do this before it gets out of the cage.
Yeah, what the... I don't know. It's dumb. I will say Fortress Assaults, I like them. For right now, I do think it's hilarious when I've, like, fully infiltrated someone's...
I'd almost recommend against that.
Yeah?
Because it's... Unless...
Well, I mean, it does take the fun out of a Fortress Assault. I'll give you that.
It's... What essentially you're doing is you're spending, like, a half hour beforehand recruiting, like, secretly sabotaging all the other Orc war chiefs to show up, like, draw them out of the fort with their bodyguards, have their bodyguards backstab them, then recruit the war chiefs and plant them in the as spies.
Yep.
And if you replace every single war chief with a spy, you literally just walk into the fortress
and auto cap each one,
and just like there's you can hop on a Caragor and just sprint to all the objectives, press a button, capture it with a little cutscene.
Yep.
And then you move on.
Well, okay. The thing I thought was
you do have to fight the Overlord. There's no getting around that.
Here's the thing that I thought was the silliest was I did that. We started the battle. The walls literally like exploded.
They just collapsed.
Which is fun.
I thought that's cool.
It was super cool, and I liked that, like, as I was strolling through and I captured a point, the guy who I had sent to, like, infiltrate would show up.
Yes.
And he would get, like, a fun little cutscene of, like, people chanting his name and being like, good thing I was getting tired of wearing red. Let's do this. And it was, like, stuff like that, you know?
I do like, honestly, I did like some of their comments, and especially with the more deranged orcs.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, the walls blow up right when you show up. If you get the first war chief on, like, the ladder.
Right.
And he's like, yep, I did it. I placed the explosives right where you told me to, and then I lit the fuse, and then they went boom.
No, it's great.
And it's like, Mozu the Crazy, you're great.
Yeah. But I will say the disappointing thing was that I couldn't, like, E2 Brute, like, attack the Overlord with all the guys that I've, like, been, secretly controlling.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of wish that my whole squad of orcs, like, at least the commanding orc guys, could come in with me.
Yeah.
And I could have, like, a posse of, like, 3 orcs following me.
Like your assault leaders?
Yeah.
Like, I'd be happy
at
with
least
that.
those guys to come in with me
I'd
on
be
that
okay.
fight.
Right now, when you set up a fortress, you can assign bodyguards to everyone but the Overlord. It's probably for the very reason that the Overlord has to fight by himself.
Right.
I'd be okay if the Overlord had a couple of bodyguards that I had to fight, like another 2 orcs on top of the huge... on top of the huge arena that's already set up and all his, like, minions that come flooding in.
Right.
I'd be okay with that if it meant I could bring in a couple of guys myself.
Yeah.
Just to make it more...
fair. More interesting.
More interesting.
Just because right now it's like a boss fight without... it feels like they took a whole aspect of the game, which is bringing in orcs that you like and control away from the Overlord fights.
I get that it's supposed to be one big, like, epic duel.
Okay, but have that duel, like...
You can call your bodyguard in, and he can help a lot. You can summon a mount in there.
Yeah.
And that can be distracting at best.
But it's still disappointing. I don't know. And plus the mounts get, like... A lot of the summonable guys are real dumb, and there are all those greats that shoot fire or poison or what have you.
Or curse.
Yeah. Now, does curse do damage at all? I'm still not sure.
They all do damage.
Mm-hmm.
Fire does the most damage. Poison does damage, and it damages your might and orcs' might. Like, they will do less fancy attacks less often. And curse will stop them from, like, it does, I think, the least amount of damage.
Right.
But it drains your wraith, and I don't know if it actually does anything.
Well, I know when it hits you, it keeps you from using your abilities, and it keeps you from being able to...
all your Carabrimbor abilities. Like the slow-mo
which is cool. I like that
I like that on you.
Like when it affects you, I think that's fun.
I don't know if it actually does anything.
Here's the thing.
The other guys.
I think I was watching a pit fight where my guy, like the enemy orc had like really low health. He got cursed by my guy, then lifted my guy over his head and then died. So like the winning animation is the enemy orc lifting my captain over his head, about to body slam him, and then he just like collapses like mid fight.
I've had that a few times. Some interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes captains will have like a weakness to curse,
Mm-hmm.
but if they don't, it's just there. Curse
Looks
will
cool.
terrify normal orcs though.
Okay.
Like if you hit any non-captain with curse, they will most likely run away and turn.
Nice.
Not always, but
Right. I think drakes are kind of a weird addition. I wasn't like a fan.
I think I started off in that boat, but as time went on, I was kind of more okay with it.
Okay. Because like right now, I like that they exist. My problem is just that whenever they show up, I hop on, like I wait until it's like low enough, then I hop on it, then I control it, then I don't really do a great job of using it, and I haven't really gotten the hang of using it, but that's probably because they're so like few and far between.
Well, you go from a 2-dimensional like fighting style to a 3-dimensional one very fast.
Yeah.
And the controls are interesting. You have to like flap. You have to tap A to flap your wings.
And there's like a melee attack as well that's like supposed to be good.
Well, that's how you heal your guy. He like swoops down, grabs somebody.
I get that, but
you can drop him or eat him.
And like fireballs for the execution.
Okay,
it's cool.
That is the most underwhelming thing. Is their like might ability is to shoot a fireball.
And the fireball like gets maybe 5 guys, but that's it.
Well,
and even then,
I mean, your normal attack is a fire breath that's like a cone of fire.
Yeah.
Why bother?
That can happen forever.
Yeah. You can literally hover over a group of orcs
and just hold the trigger.
Literally just hold the trigger until it's just like the captain remaining.
I think my number one thing is just like, I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm playing the game and there are aspects that I really enjoy of it, and then there are other stuff that like it feels like Drakes got tossed in, and that plus I'm flying a huge target over an enemy fortress, and every ranged asshole on every thatched roof.
Not just every ranged asshole, every orc will pull out like a throwing axe.
Yeah, or like a rock and just like wing you with them. And I'm like, shit, why did I go in the air? And 9 times out of 10, I hop off my crazy fucking Drake.
To be honest,
I let that fly and like do stuff.
If you're flying over a fortress, actually anywhere really.
Yeah.
The Drakes go down real fast.
Oh yeah.
They do not last long.
It's glass cannony, but that's sort of to be
I'm okay with it. I've had good use of them, and I kind of like that they ignore your stealth. They always know where you are.
Yeah.
Which is at times frustrating, but
I get that they have like a bird's eye view, and they're always like firing fireballs at you.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I like them as a new element. I like them as a challenge to deal with sometimes, and I like that they're not like we just said how easy it is to like light up a whole sled of orcs, and then we just said you always get shot by every orc and their mother.
Right.
So I think they're okay.
Okay.
How do you feel about microtransactions?
I think with this specific game, it doesn't matter.
It is a solo player game, so it's not really a pay to win.
Well, plus the just doing tasks get you the free currency Mirian, but you use that for everything. So it's like one of those things where you can buy, and like the loot boxes only ever give you either gear, which you can naturally get in the environment, or orcs, which you can naturally get in the environment, and you'll probably give more of a shit about orcs that like you actually know and meet and fight.
So I feel like there are daily missions to get like 50 gold a day sometimes.
Or like a chest.
Like
I'll do the chest ones. I
like getting the 50 gold because I always want to get those legendary.
Okay.
Per account, you can buy 4 or 3 chests of that's just 4 legendary orcs, and you can raise a current orc to legendary. I bought one of them. I kind of regretted I didn't wait till a higher level.
Yeah.
Because they
scale with your level.
Yeah. when you open the chest, they come out relatively your level. So I just ended up having to like level up those orcs.
I still have orcs from when I was in Nurnen, from like the regular boxes that are rotting away in my orc stable because I haven't used them.
I had I think 50 orcs in my marketplace.
Almost the same, yeah. I got the same.
Because the free currency. Okay, so for those of you that haven't played the game, you can actually, there's specially marked white orcs that are around the world. You can kill them, and they drop anywhere from 50 to 1,000 of this currency. The chest
And gemstones.
or gemstones, but the currency is what you use to, I think it's 1,200.
Yep.
To buy a chest
single chest
that has either 4 pieces of gear or one epic orc and 1 orc of varying quality. You can get legendary orcs in the normal chest.
It threw me off that the next highest it was one of those things where I thought I was just buying 2 chests, but it was 5 chests.
You can only buy in 1, 5, or 20.
Which I thought was crazy.
I thought that was pretty funny.
But I will say I like that I don't have to, like, again, it didn't feel like a hassle. It felt like an extra thing.
No, exactly. Like I said, you can find certain orcs out there that drop 1,000 of the currency.
Yeah.
And that's almost a chest. That's 2 orcs and a training order of some sort. Something to buff an existing orc. Which
I liked, especially like when I have orcs that don't have good weapons, and like because they're not going to naturally equip shit, I have to sort of micromanage them.
Yeah.
And that's where the orders come in. And I get why they did that. I kind of like, again, wish they would do more of their own shit, but hey, that's how it is.
And every time you kill an orc captain, or hell, even recruit them, I think, they drop a piece of gear, and you can, if you don't want to use that piece of gear, you can grind it up into that currency.
That's right. I have
100,000 of that currency. That's not the cap, by the way.
Yeah.
I have 100,000 of that currency, and it cost only like 1,200 to buy a box. I did end up going, when I got to like level 55, I did end up buying like 20 or 30 of those boxes with just that currency because I didn't really have anything else to spend it on.
Right.
And I essentially started replacing all my orcs with the epic orcs you can get out of that chest.
Yeah.
So that's the microtransaction
for like
system.
endgame.
I haven't spent a single penny, and I've essentially bought, with air quotes around it, all my orcs.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't feel like the microtransaction system is evil. You can definitely use it to your advantage without ever spending a penny just by playing the game normally.
Yeah, and I get that. And I think it was one of those things where people have like a knee-jerk reaction whenever folks say microtransactions, just because hurts.
They don't want to like...
You don't want to spend $60 and then get an unfinished product.
You don't want to attack somebody else's fortress and then find out it's nearly unbeatable because they
purchased orcs.
They purchased all these legendary orcs and all these like really fancy orders to like train the orcs. And then it's like, oh, now I can't beat this guy, or I can't beat all these players,
right? Because
they paid to win.
Yeah.
And the gear, also, I haven't spent a single coin of anything on gear.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I'm grinding up mountains of gear.
I think the only gear that I've actually gotten from chests has been from like doing a vendetta mission on like a whim, and then like them giving me a chest.
Okay, you do one vendetta mission, which is just a mission, a multiplayer mission, online mission you can do in the game, and you get, if you do it decently enough, like sometimes you have to do a bonus objective or whatever, or kill the guy in a particular way. If you do it, I think if you just do it, you get a chest that has 5 pieces of gear in it.
And that's easily like 1,000 Mirian each.
Yeah. You can just turn that into another chest if you really want.
Done.
Also, you can the orcs you get out of the chests, you can grind those guys up into Mirian too.
No, that's true. I forgot
currency.
I forgot that you can grind the orcs down.
I might actually go and grind up all my non-epic orcs just if you like.
That,
sorry, Grosh Helm Smasher.
I mean, it's not like they do anything. They're just rotting away back there.
Okay, I had this mental image of me being like, I can get all these high-level orcs, put them in a bunch of pit fights, and use them in, like, I can use them to attack other players' fortresses, and when they die, I can just shuffle them out. And then I started doing that, and my guys just weren't dying.
Yeah.
Like, I was dying, but they weren't. So I was like, all right, they can die. They can die in online missions, and that does actually kill them.
Now, final thoughts, because we're getting to that point.
I guess one more complaint before we finish the complaint section is sometimes this version of the game is much more focused on large-scale battles because you're making an army.
Right.
You're not assassinating a couple of captains. You're attacking fortresses with large groups of friendly orcs, hostile orcs. The game's controls are really not made for you to make this pinpoint
tactical decisions
in a large group of orcs. I can't tell you how many times I have accidentally executed the wrong orc, or I've accidentally vaulted over a friendly orc instead of a hostile one. And I've definitely been caught in mosh pits where I have vaulted over an orc and suddenly found myself between a wall and like 18 other orcs.
How many captains have died because you sent Ologs to destroy the walls and there was an orc captain climbing the wall while they were blowing it up?
That is a stupid reason for it.
But that keeps happening. And I'm not even using Ologs anymore. It's just that guys keep going at the wall and smacking them, and other dudes are climbing the walls at the same time like an idiot.
I don't use anything that attacks walls anymore. I don't
like sappers for the gate, and that's it.
I use sappers for the gate or cavalry if they can climb the walls.
Yeah.
I never use the siege equipment that does fire damage because that one attacks the walls specifically.
I had forgotten that I brought a Graug, and I was like, okay, cool, the Graugs are going to be awesome, and we'll just bust the gate open. And then the Graug, busted a wall, and I was like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
My guys climb those for some reason.
Yep. So besides, some of these, nitpicking, sometimes combat can feel a little frustrating. There's been, the way you dominate a captain is you essentially point one joystick in his direction and press a button.
Yep.
And if there's a pile of 10 orcs over there, woo, good luck getting that captain.
Oh, yeah. No, that's going to be tough. Especially, if it's a bunch of enemy guys, they're going to interrupt your dominate.
Or it's also, how do you target that one guy out of that crowd? It's not like a point and click. You're just facing a direction.
I do kind of wish I had a lock on, so I was always checking, I was always scoping out this one guy.
Same thing
and
goes
then if
for,
I was worried about certain moves.
Same thing goes for resurrecting. Sometimes your guys will fall in battle and they'll go into a bleed out mode, and that's nice because it gives you a chance to save your guys if you're willing to put in the effort. And at higher levels, I have been in situations where I've spent... sometimes your fortresses get attacked and you gotta defend them. And I have spent entire sieges running from point to point, resurrecting my guys because I was being attacked by 5 legendary dudes that were just trashing all my guys.
Now, would you say this game is good at its current price point? Would you like to see it lower? Would you like to see it
It's not heavy on story, but there is plenty of content. I think it's very entertaining. I think it has almost too many hours of content because there are definitely certain sections of the game that can feel like a drag.
Yeah.
But for the time and quality of content, I would absolutely say it's worth its price point.
Okay. I might say that it's good, and this is just my experience from the last Shadow of Mordor game.
If you liked the last game, you will like this game.
Yeah. No, it's a more of the same in a good way.
It's not a traditional video game.
I will say, after seeing that Shadow of Mordor got down to $5 right after they announced Shadow of War, I want to say, or right before they announced Shadow of War, the whole Game of the Year edition for the first game was down to $5, and I think I have it on my Steam right now, and I haven't tried it yet because I've used console first. But it was one of those things where I was like, okay, these games are going to be high for a while, but then afterwards they're going to end up becoming a lot cheaper with all the DLC. I might suggest waiting especially because we're going to get more tribes through the season pass, I was told.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's going to be like...
Hell, when you complete the final... okay, actually, my game bugged a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you beat the main story, your fortresses get attacked.
Almost constantly?
Well, you go through like stages where like first it's one fort, then it becomes 2 forts, then it becomes all 4 forts, and then it eventually ends. I think that it's 10 stages. It's 10 sets of sieges, and
now, are you a part of each one or no?
Yes, you manually get to defend your fort. I don't know what happens if you lose your fort. You might actually get to attack it again, which might be more interesting content.
Right.
Might be more entertaining for the player. But when you beat the very last one, or if you do what I did, which is switch out the warlord, which causes the whole like region to like reload because it has to change the decoration
from Marauder to Feral or something.
It will think you completed the last mission, and then to give you this prompt where it says, "Hey, there's going to be these new tribes in these 2 DLCs. I forget what they're called, but there'll be all this cool content, and stick around.
Stick around for it." I get you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was our thoughts on that. Thanks for listening to another Boxcars. As always, check us out on all the different media platforms that we're on. Talkbox is on YouTube, iTunes, a couple different places.
Find us on Steam. We'll play games with you.
Yeah. Hey,
Find
ask us.
Xbox Live.
Yep. Ask us our opinions about games. We'll either tell you or we won't. One of those. And hey, this has been Zack.
And this has been Pat.
And this has been Boxcars in a car.
Thanks for listening.